with LowKick MMA, and today I am very excited to be here with the man that kind of shocked the world a couple of weeks back, Mr. Clay Collard. Clay, thank you so much for joining us today. How are things going? Because I know that you're like in the middle of wrapping up camp, getting ready to get back in there. So how are things?
Things are good, we're just right now we're about a week out, so it's just making sure our weight's on point and just kind of chomping at the bit to get in the cage.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to first and foremost start by extending my condolences. I know that you lost your younger brother, Chad, and I know that's been a huge motivator for you. And I know you've talked about it with some other folks, but just in general, how impactful was it for you to be able to get that huge victory over Anthony Pettis in your PFL debut? And I'm pretty sure you went into the fight kind of doing it for him, but talk us through a little bit of that emotion, because I'm sure it was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, in a fight, you have to keep your emotions in check. And when something like that happens, and, I put so much work and time into it, and it definitely was a new experience for me, learning how to deal with those emotions. There was multiple times throughout the camp that I'd lose my crap. And coach would have to make me sit out from sparring or sit out from doing something, so it was really challenging. The win was great, but it's only part of the journey, so I'm still focused on this tournament, winning this tournament. So
yeah, and I know in the past you've mentioned the idea of like having to make that decision, right? And so like getting cut from the UFC, kind of rededicating to yourself to the sport. How much has that mentality, do you believe, has led to the success that you found yourself in and the success that you're continuing to pursue?
I mean, that's been everything. Just I went from kind of just not taking it serious at one point. I mean, I fought so hard and so long to get to the UFC, and then when I got to the UFC, it was like I kind of lost track of why I was doing it, and so just refocusing and getting back on track and deciding that this is what I wanted to do has been everything. Now it's, I think of it as a career, not just something I'm doing. So, and that was the mindset I didn't have when I was younger. So, I'm focused, and I'm ready to take the world by storm. So.
Well, I mean, you kind of already started though, because in fairness, several odds makers going into the fight with Pettis had you at like a plus 390 underdog, which isn't terrible, but that's still a moderate underdog going into that fight. And, watching the fight, I remember thinking like, holy crap, like he's making Pettis look bad. So, talk me a little bit through that. Obviously, all of the judges, gave you the decision. There was a little bit of a discrepancy in the scoring, but pretty much everyone gave it to you 2 rounds to 1. And I think that third round where Pettis got the knockdown was probably the round that they gave him. How did you feel in the middle of the fight? And then as you got, waiting for the judge's decision, like it seemed like you knew you had done enough.
One moment. Just like 2 minutes. Sorry.
No worries.
Coming.
Understood.
Yeah, could you ask me that again? Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to know, like, you were an underdog coming into the fight. Obviously, when it was all said and done, the judges gave you the decision unanimous, even though they didn't all have the same scoring. You got knocked down in the third, and so if the judges gave the Pettis a round, it was probably the third. when while you're sitting there waiting for the decision, did you really feel like you had done enough? Did you feel like here it was kind of like your coming out party, although it was really supposed to be about Pettis? How did you feel in that moment?
Yeah, so I feel like I dominated the whole fight. I mean, even in that third round, even though he knocked me down, like I still ended the round on top.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I was beating him up the entire round. So in that whole 5-minute round, he had about 20 seconds where he was winning. And so I mean, technically, I thought I won the third round too, even though I know the judges saw it different just because it was a big thing, but I, like I said, I ended the round on top. I got back to my feet and I kept fighting. So I was pretty sure I had it in the bag. And yeah, like I said, I thought being the underdog, I never everybody else was counting me as the underdog, but I never see myself as the underdog. So yeah, just keep counting me out because I'm gonna keep showing up, proving them
There
wrong.
it is. No, there it is. I mean, I remember watching the fight, and I thought you won all 3 rounds. I think that sometimes the knockdowns are overvalued by some judges. It just kind of is what it is. But there was definitely throughout, there was a composure, there was a confidence in which you were fighting that I felt showed throughout the entire fight. And you did what you needed to do to get it done. That said, you are now sitting atop the PFL rankings going into your second fight. The first thing that I want to ask you, and definitely not trying to stir controversy, but I just know as a human being how I would feel. What are your thoughts on the idea that although you're the number one ranked or number one in the standings right now, that Pettis is kind of like the main event on this card? Like, does it bother you?
I don't worry about that. Yeah, it would be nice to be the main event, but that just means I get to go in and get my job done and over with earlier. I can go out and spend more time with my family. So yeah, I mean he's a big name, he's done a lot for the sport and he has a big following. So I think it's smart. The PFL did put him back at the main event. I know I've read through a lot of comments. A lot of the fans have kind of been poking at him, saying like this should be Cassius, so
Mhm.
it's good to see the fans getting behind me, but I'm not really too worried about that much. I'm worried about the end game, and that's the $1 million, so you can put me at the first fight, the last fight, the middle fight. I really don't care. I'm just going to go in there and do my job, which is to win and move on to the next round. So
Absolutely. And speaking of the PFL, before we kind of talk a bit about your upcoming matchup, how has that experience been? There have been multiple fighters, who either coming from Bellator or coming from the UFC, have talked about the difference in how they feel like they're treated and they're respected and valued as fighters within the PFL. How has your experience been so far?
the PFL has been amazing. From day one, the president Ray Sifo is awesome. They have so many people that are invested and they put a lot of time and work into it. And I mean, going through the whole COVID thing and, they've done a terrific job and, making us safe and making it, work when a lot of shows wouldn't be able to do that. And they have. So, yeah, they've been more than awesome. The PFL, the whole team from, I mean, the concierge to the president to the photographer, so they're all amazing people and it's been great to work with them.
Amazing. And so let's talk about your upcoming fight. Obviously, again, you're at the top of the current standings. You're coming in against Lutterbach, who, he's a pretty multifaceted fighter. But obviously, there's not one thing that I think he counts as his bread and butter. Are there any specific holes that in preparing for this fight you've seen in his game that you plan to exploit?
So I'd let my coach handle everything. He does all the film study. He watches the fight. He comes up with the game plan, and my job is to go out there and execute that.
Mhm.
So, we've been working on certain things that we think are gonna be good. Yeah, but other than that, I just show up and do my job, listen to my coach. I don't want to think too much into it, because then that's when you start getting yourself in trouble. So I just show up, work hard, listen to my coach, and whatever, I'm going in there. He's got to fight. He's got to fight me. He's locked in the cage with me, and that's the mindset I like to have taking into any fight. So I'm gonna fight him like he's a world champion, and I'm gonna go out there and execute my game plan. Not too worried about what he's doing. I'm just gonna go out there and do me. So
Understood. And so in doing you, I mean, obviously, the good thing about the way that the PFL structures is like you're busy, you go from one camp to the next, you know what to expect. Going into this camp, and obviously after reviewing your performance against Pettis, were there any areas in your game that you really felt we need to focus on improving, or I wish I would have done a little bit more of this, I need to kind of tighten that up? Where were you looking to improve?
I'm always looking to improve. So um I wouldn't say that I look back on the Pettis fight and was like, oh, I need to work on that. It would have been nice not to get head kicked, but you're in a fight. They're throwing
Yeah.
punches and kicks and knees and everything else at you, and so it's just minimizing the damage as much as possible. So yeah, we just went right back to the drawing board, continued to work on what we were working on, added a few new tricks, and just, kept our strength and conditioning up, and just kept working. So I've been working and working
Awesome.
at this for years and years.
So you said that you added some new tricks. I'm sure you can't give us too much, but any specific little crumbles about those new tricks you might want to share with our viewers?
Um, you're just gonna have to watch the fight. If I give all my
There it is.
information out now, you're gonna have to watch the fight if you want to see my tricks. So
Absolutely. Now, I do have to ask you one more thing, kind of going back to the Pettis fight. It was clear, at least for me watching it, that you were definitely working on getting the finish. How disappointed were you that you didn't get the finish? And is it a situation where you are most definitely trying to get the finish in your upcoming fight against Lutterbach?
so I mean, Pettis is a world class athlete.
Mhm.
It would have been great to finish him in that second round. It didn't happen, so I'm not worried too much about the past. I'm looking to the future, right? So right
Mhm.
now, uh let's say Pettis goes out there and gets a knockout, gets his 6 points in the first round. I get my decision win. I get 3 points. He'll take my spot in the tournament,
Mhm.
even though I have a win over him, which kind of sucks. But so right now, a finish is something that will solidify my spot, and I don't have to worry about if anybody else, gets a first round knockout or not. So
Right.
right now it's all about the finish, and so I will definitely be looking to stop that fight 100% from right out the gate. I'm trying to put him away. So
Well, I got to tell you, that's great for me to hear because that's what I want to see when I'm watching the fight. So I'm glad that we're on the same page about that one. So let's switch gears a little bit, and then I'm going to let you go because I know you have a lot to do. But recently, you kind of talked about how you thought that the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley fight was a bit of a joke. Um, I think that there are a lot of people that feel similarly in this new arena of MMA fighters doing boxing. However, his older brother is fighting a boxer this weekend in Mayweather. Who you got winning that fight?
I honestly don't care. Yeah, I don't care. I don't want to I don't want to give him attention. So whenever anybody brings him up, I'm just like, I don't want to give them the time of day, you know. The fact that we're
Yeah.
talking about him is an insult to me. So
Well, I certainly do not want to insult you. So let's bring it back completely to MMA because there is another big fight this weekend in the UFC with Rosenstruck going up against Sakai. People are expecting tons of fireworks. Out of curiosity, will you have time to watch the fight? And if so, who do you think is going to pull it out?
who's fighting again?
Rosenstruck and Sakai.
I don't follow either of those guys. I'm terrible, huh? For being in combat sports, I don't really care about too many other fighters except for myself. So
Listen,
my little brother, he would know. Kez would know. My older brother, he don't miss a fight. He watches all of them. Me, I deal with fighting enough.
Hey, that's a fair thing because if anything, the only fighter that you ever need to be worried about is who you are fighting. So I don't hold anything against you for not having a horse in this race, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I got too much to worry about leading up to this fight to be worried. I mean, I didn't even know there were fights this weekend. Usually when I'm not, in the middle of the training camp, I'll tune in to watch just to see competition and stuff. But yeah, I haven't even watched any of the hype up videos or nothing to that one, so I can't call it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Clay, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I don't believe in wishing people luck because I think it's an insult. You guys work way too hard for any of this to be luck. So I hope that your preparation pays off for you next week.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.